He raised money for 5 years, and I have no problem with that. It took us 5 years to get his school. I had no problem with that. Should it have taken as long? No.
It's that time again, brothers and sisters. Dr. Umar seems to have exhausted all the major platforms with his almost finished narrative. Now he's making appearances on smaller channels, repeating the same talking points, likely trying to stretch things out for another year or two. He's once again discussing the floors, repairs, and how certain parts of the building need to be redone because, according to him, that's just part of the process. But that's not true. If something is done correctly the first time, there shouldn't be a need to go back and fix it again. If you make a mistake, you go back and correct it. But that only applies when there's actual work to fix. In this case, there's been little to no real progress inside that school to begin with. So what exactly is there to repair? The patchy paint job? The missing ceiling tiles? The rundown gym? Or that unsanitary restroom that looks like a health hazard? Honestly, that restroom alone is a disaster. From the way things look, Dr. Umar is in there experimenting with cleaning supplies and chemicals without proper care, risking his own safety. Yet, we're supposed to believe he's capable of managing a school?
He raised money for 5 years, and I have no problem with that. It took us 5 years to get his school. I had no problem with that. Should it have taken as long? No. We went through a lot with our contractors. We were scammed. We were ripped off. We were robbed.
People say that when you talk about things needing to get done, it's always another thing. Like, tomorrow's the day that never comes. That's what people say, right?
Things take time. Things always have to be re-repaired because you miss things in the initial repair. So I don't care.
Couldn't have said it any clearer. He literally said, "I don't care," and I believe him completely. Some people doubt that, but when he looks you in the eye and says it without hesitation, he means it. Now, of course, he starts to deflect, claiming the contractors ripped him off. According to him, they robbed the project. But really, were these the same contractors responsible for that filthy restroom that stayed that way for months? The same ones who supposedly caused all the issues? Probably so. Anyway, he mentions, "We raised money for 5 years. I don't have a problem with that." Then he adds, "It took us 5 years to get a school." Again, no issue there. But when it comes to explaining why the project still isn't complete or why progress has stalled, he blames the contractors. He says they had problems with them and also ran into issues with the city. But notice something. Whenever there's a setback, he says we. And whenever it's about success or recognition, suddenly it's I. That's one of the main reasons I don't believe he's genuinely committed to this school. It feels like the school is just a front, an excuse to keep raising money. There's no realistic way he's going to fund a fully functional institution on his own. He seems to think he can just open a school, make up his own rules, and personally handle everything. Even though he's rarely consistent or organized, how can you manage a school when you plan to spend half the year in Africa? Honestly, I think that's exactly where he'll end up. Because at some point, I believe federal authorities are going to start investigating him. Maybe not immediately, but likely within a year or so.
Do you have a date that you think is actually...
I'm not giving no more date because every time I gave a date, we never met the date. And the reason we never met the date is I was depending on a contractor. And so when they betrayed the date, we had to betray the date.
Can you give full financial transparency?
I can, but I wouldn't.
Okay, why not?
Because the only people we are accountable to are our donors. If you're not a donor, we owe you nothing. We are not a publicly funded school.
Would you do that to the donor?
Sure. My donors, yeah. But the donors don't care because they understand what we're going through. The donors have been there through the whole ride. It's the haters who have all the questions, and the haters don't matter.
Do you believe that there are any people that do doubt you that might be valid, like logically conclusive, like they're not just haters?
If you have never donated to the FDMG Academy, you can ask all the questions you want, but we owe you no answers. You can't blame an ignorant person for being ignorant. Teacher!
So, according to you, Dr. Umar Ifatunde, also known as Intergalactic Rib Tip, we shouldn't hold you accountable as a grown man for not knowing how to properly clean a restroom? That's basically what you're saying, right? By your logic, we shouldn't blame you because you're too careless or too lazy to handle basic maintenance. And now you're trying to downplay it, saying, "Oh, someone left toilet paper in it." No, let's be honest, that's not the issue. We've all seen the state of that restroom. Yet here you are, using this Pan-African rhetoric to justify it, as if it's something deeper than simple neglect. You're essentially telling people that you, a full-grown adult, need someone else to come and teach you how to clean. And of course, you expect them to do it for free. That's the main point people keep missing. He doesn't want to pay anyone. How do you expect to run a legitimate school if you refuse to hire or fairly compensate people? It's unrealistic. Sure, he's a good speaker, but that alone doesn't make him capable of running an educational institution. At this rate, that building will become a biohazard, black mold, unsafe conditions, and students at risk of getting sick. And yet, he's quick to remind everyone that he doesn't owe anyone an explanation. That's fine, but the federal government doesn't play that game. They haven't donated to your FDMG project, and when they start asking questions, you won't be able to dismiss them with your usual attitude. When they demand documentation and proof of legitimacy for this 10-year operation, you'll have to respond. You can't charm your way out with Pan-African legal teams or community events. The reality is catching up. Many believe you're preparing to flee to Ghana, which might explain that dual citizenship. It seems like you're fully aware that scrutiny is coming your way, that the pressure is building, and that you're being watched closely. Meanwhile, you're still online saying, hit the PayPal for FDMG. But anyone who's seen the current state of that school knows there's no active work being done there. And this isn't about a recent lawsuit draining your funds. The condition of that building has been the same for years. At this point, it looks like you're running out of options. You can appear on small podcasts, act confident, tell your version of events, and repeat that you don't owe the public any answers. But remember this, the FBI didn't donate either. And when they come asking for answers, I'm certain you'll respond. We'll see if that same energy remains when they question where all those alleged donations went. That's when the truth will really come out. No speeches, no slogans, no ancestors talk, just accountability. That moment is going to go viral across YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. You'll see it everywhere. Pan-African picnic scammer indicted by the FBI. Honestly, that's how I see things unfolding. When, I can't say exactly, but considering he's been doing this for nearly a decade, it feels inevitable. He claims to have been raising funds for 5 years, but that's simply not true. It's been much longer. He says he's been working on the floors for 5 years, yet the condition of that building suggests otherwise. For all we know, that mess in the restroom could have been sitting there for the same amount of time, and honestly, he seems used to that level of neglect because that's just how he lives. I've said before, the only clean place he spends time in is a rental car. And even that's temporary. Once he starts drinking, offering cheap liquor to the ancestors, or lighting up, things quickly go downhill again. Anywhere else he goes, there's always some kind of mess nearby. You ever notice that? Now, let's dig deeper into this bank account issue, because the story raises more than just a few red flags. At one point, the last public update claimed the account was frozen, and since then, there's been nothing. No real follow-up, no clarity. So what do we assume? Is the account open again? Or was it just a claim used to motivate another fundraising push? It's hard to reconcile either scenario without credible evidence. The lack of transparency here is troubling. For example, if the account really was frozen, how did he manage to pay off the lawsuit or coverage for the building's utilities? The timeline doesn't add up. And we don't hear anything about appeals or bank correspondence. It's silent. That silence speaks volumes. He's consistently said he doesn't owe the public any answers. Sure. In a legal sense, maybe he doesn't. But if people donated money and were promised progress, answers become a matter of public trust. If you contributed to the project, you're within your rights to expect accountability. Let's add another dimension. Multiple reports show that the account freeze claim was accompanied by pleas for new donations via PayPal and Apple Pay and so on. That pattern suggests either the freeze was real and immediate action couldn't wait, or the freeze is part of the narrative being used to raise funds. Either way, it demands scrutiny. So when I say make no mistake, yes, at some point he will need to answer. Questions will be asked. What is the actual status of the funds? Where did the previous donations go? Why is there no independent verification of bank records or audits? These are not trivial antitrust claims. They impact the integrity of the project and the people who believed in it. In short, we're not just talking about a missing update. We're talking about a story that demands explanation. And when that explanation comes, if it comes, it will likely reveal much more. Anyway, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. I'll be back soon with more, and if you doubt me, that's fine. But remember, this man doesn't feel any accountability, maybe because he's constantly in another state of mind. And when that grand opening finally happens, if it ever does, you already know what he'll say. Brothers and sisters, when you come to the grand opening, you must drop a donation in the box. over and over again. That's always been the message.